Hi guys, hello gorgeous. Back with another 80s classic TV show review for you. Today going to be taking a look at one of the most beloved 80s shows. It's a show that everybody's heard of. Magnum P.I, specifically looking at season 1. So the original release of this show that I purchased was this secondhand DVD set of season 1. Comes in a case that holds this flip out set, and quite a few of the classic shows came in this flip out style set where you have the dreaded double-sided discs, which I can't stand. And there was originally also a pamphlet that gave you episode synopsises. Didn't come in the copy that I purchased, so that kind of sucked. But I really dislike these double-sided DVDs because it's just, you're more susceptible to scratching one side or the other, even just putting them in the DVD player. They do that in order to save space, to make it a 6-disc set instead of a 12, I guess, but I really dislike that. There is some nice artwork on the flip case. You got Higgins there, good old TC, and Magnum himself with the most epic mustache. So that was the original set that I purchased, and then not too long ago, released on, well, I bought mine on Amazon, is this giant, colossal, complete Magnum P.I. DVD set. That does not really represent Magnum P.I. You would think that he would be wearing a Hawaiian shirt, like the terrible Hawaiian shirt that I'm wearing today, and short shorts. So I don't know if they're trying to appeal more to the CIS crowd or Homicide or whatever all those other investigative shows are. But strangely, no ugly Hawaiian shirt on the box. The iconic Ferrari is on there though, and specifically today looking at season 1. Once again, we have a look at the iconic Ferrari. These are nice compact cases and single-sided DVDs, which I absolutely love. And also on the inside of these cases are little episode synopses, so not a pamphlet that can get lost. And these are really handy to have because if you watch these classic shows like I do, I don't watch them every single day. I'll watch a Magnum maybe once a week or once every 2 weeks. And I forget where I am, and I don't always write them down or keep a log of where I am. So it's nice to just look at, let's see here, Disc 3. The ugliest dog in Hawaii. After an attempted dog napping, Higgins volunteers Magnum services to guard a wealthy socialite's quarantined dog. So you can read that and go, oh yeah, that's I've already seen that one. So you keep going forward, or if that doesn't sound familiar, then that's probably where you are, or a few episodes before that. So to give you a brief rundown of Magnum P.I, in case you've been living under a rock or you were born after 1990, this is one of the most beloved classic shows of the 80s. It's actually not one that I watched all that much when I was a kid. I was more of an A-Team, Knight Rider, Fall Guy viewer, but I knew of Magnum and I liked him. You know, whenever I saw him on TV, I knew that the tone of the show was a little more mature than those other shows that I was into. It was a more adult show, but he's still such a likable character. He's got that $1 million smile. He's got that $1 million mustache. I dare say he might have the greatest mustache in TV or movie history. And I can't say in all of human history because that designation belongs to my dear old dad. So the premise of the show is that Thomas Magnum is a Vietnam War veteran, and he takes up residence in the mansion, in the guest room of the mansion of a rich novelist named Robin Masters, who never appears in season 1. And the mansion is taken care of by this gentleman right here, Higgins, with his vicious Dobermans, Apollo and Zeus. Patrol! And Magnum's also joined in many episodes by his 2 buddies who are also Vietnam War vets, served with him in the war. Even though it's got a bunch of Vietnam War veterans, it's nothing like the A-Team. A-Team was very tongue-in-cheek. It was a live-action cartoon. This is a very fun, breezy show as well, but it does have its serious dramatic moments. Almost no one ever got killed on the A-Team, whereas on Magnum, people die frequently, and the premise of the show is that Magnum, former Vietnam War veteran, now he's a private investigator in Hawaii, and he drives around in Robin Masters' Ferrari. I gotta say, though, that this show is one of the most cleverly marketed shows ever, because it's got that iconic theme song, it's got the red Ferrari, it's got this just stereotypical Hollywood superstar starring in it, but it's really not the way they market it. That intro music, they actually don't use that until past halfway through season 1. I remember putting in the first disc and getting all pumped up for that music, and then something else started playing. It was this kind of, it sounded like lounge music, and I hate it. But even so, I for some reason can't help but groove whenever it comes on. It's got like this swank beat to it. As much as I dislike that music, I think that represents the tone of the show a lot better than that second Mike Post and Pete Carpenter high octane, high energy theme song. That one really revs you up, and they show the Ferrari racing around, and that is not what the show is at all. So that is a warning to people who have never seen Magnum or haven't seen him in quite a while and forget what the show is like. Enjoy the intro for what it is, but it is not a representation of what the show is. Unlike most TV shows today, where one episode perfectly blends into the next one, and it's all about continuity, and each episode is part of a large overarching story, the Magnum P.I. episodes are self-contained. You could watch them all out of sequence. There are these tiny little nods to continuity, though, like Magnum gets shot in the pilot episode. So for the rest of the first season, whenever he has a shirt off or he's wearing an undershirt that reveals his shoulders, he will always have a little bit of makeup to represent the bullet hole from getting shot. So they do keep track of his damage, and also he has an injury from Vietnam, and they always include that scar as well. So it's interesting that they keep track of these tiny little things, even though the episodes really aren't connected. You occasionally find out a little bit of Magnum's history in some of the episodes, but it's not like the character of Magnum evolves from episode 1 to the final episode of season 1. And I would even say, having watched a couple of the later season episodes too, he doesn't really evolve much from season 1 to season 8. What you see is what you get in terms of Magnum and pretty much everybody else on the show too. It's an easy breezy show. It doesn't require a lot of investment. Some of the episodes try to be heavy, but it's such a lighthearted show. It's in Hawaii, which is absolutely beautiful. That's one of the reasons to watch the show. Just the setting of the show. See, this guy could literally just walk around town or drive around town in a Ferrari, not doing anything really important, but the locale is so exotic, so beautiful, that's part of the entertainment as well. If you can't take a vacation to Hawaii, some would say the next best thing is just to watch Hawaii on TV. Another thing to keep in mind when you're watching Magnum P.I. is that this was really a precursor to all those other great action shows of the 80s. Now, I'm a big fan of Stephen J. Cannell's shows. The A-Team, Hardcastle and McCormick, Hunter was really great too. I think Hunter is maybe a little closer in tone to this thing because Hunter dealt with murders. So Magnum is dealing with murders or the threat of death as well. But Hunter is a show that's got a higher gear. There's intense car chases. Cars are flying around. And then with Hardcastle and McCormick and the A-Team, vehicles are flying. They're hitting things and flipping over 10 times. It's really high energy, high octane, very dangerous stunts. Magnum P.I. is not that type of show at all. Occasionally there is a car chase, but that Ferrari I can't remember it ever hitting a ramp and going airborne. For the most part, Magnum just uses the Ferrari as transportation to get from point A to point B. It's really not used like the Coyote was in Hardcastle and McCormick. Every time McCormick gets in the coyote, I get a chill because you know that it's going to be a really intense and potentially dangerous stunt sequence with real men in real cars flipping around like crazy. Whereas this is just, a guy driving around town, and just picture that original theme music. Doo-doom, doom, doom, doo-doo-doo-doom. It's a slower pace. It's less intense, even though Magnum can be extremely intense himself in the show. For the most part, he just smiles that dimply smile. He's got that really laid-back, laconic charm to him. But he does have a higher gear occasionally. There are scenes where it's like Popeye, basically. That's all I can stands, I can't stands no more. And when he does need to be extremely intense, Tom Selleck can command a room. He can be such a diminutive presence, just kind of hunching and slinking back and disappearing in the shot. But when it's time for Magnum to command the scene, the guy is like 6'4" or 5, tall, imposing character. So it's very interesting that he picks and chooses when he wants to grab hold of the scene, instead of being like a bull in a china shop and basically chewing the scenery in every scene that he's in. Even though the episodes for me were quickly forgettable, it's a really fun, light show. I have to watch stuff like this because there's just too much dark, serious stuff going on today. The TV shows of today. Game of Thrones, for example, I absolutely love Game of Thrones. It's one of the best shows I've ever seen, but I am a firm believer in yin and yang, and I do recognize the darkness and the violence in something like Game of Thrones, and so there needs to be a balance, at least for myself. I need to watch something the polar opposite of Game of Thrones, and so that's why I will pop in some old 80s cartoons or Stephen J. Cannell shows or Magnum P.I. Even though this isn't the most compelling show, I just like watching it every once in a while because it's so lighthearted. It's such a polar opposite of the dark, serious stuff that we see today. And you don't really need to pay that close attention to these shows. You can be groggy after a hard day's work and watch one of these shows. They a lot of them are murder mysteries or other whodunit or solve the crime type of episodes, but it's nothing really complicated. Occasionally they go for a twist, but the writing on this isn't, I wouldn't call it absolutely brilliant. It is what it is. It's just meant to be a fun show about a fun guy in a very fun locale. Here's a shining example of just how lighthearted the show is. Even though somebody may have been killed or someone has been kidnapped and there's the threat of them being killed, Magnum P.I. breaks the fourth wall. So he doesn't do it every single episode, but he does it in the intro, possibly twice. Occasionally, when something is going on, people are talking with each other, Tom Selleck will just look at the camera, which they barely ever do today, unless it's someone like Deadpool, and that's his whole gimmick. But really, I can't think of many movies from that era that actually did that, unless they were comedies. There's that great scene in Smokey and the Bandit where Burt Reynolds is driving by and he's chewing, and like he'll just turn and look right at the camera, and it's hilarious shot. And in Magnum, he does it occasionally too, and it's so bizarre because it's feels like it should be a little more serious than that. I don't remember any of the A-Team or Hardcastle and McCormick or Hunter ever breaking the fourth wall, but Magnum does it, and I think he gets away with it because he's just such a likable character. He's a buddy, and he's one of the very few characters, and Tom Selleck is one of the very few actors who's so extremely relatable and likable that you just, instead of going, what the hell is that? You just go, yeah, Magnum. Also wanted to mention, if you haven't picked up this amazing DVD set yet, you might want to hold off on it actually, because just recently in the UK, Blu-ray set was released of the entire show. It's not available in North America, and the UK release is region locked, so it might not even work on your player if you're in North America. But I was able to watch a couple of episodes in HD of Magnum P.I, and I was very curious to see how Magnum would look in high definition. Just picturing that beautiful aquamarine water of Hawaii and the beautiful green palm trees. I was hoping that it would pop, and it looks absolutely gorgeous. The Blu-ray is 100% worth it. It's like the Airwolf Blu-ray. I did a review of Airwolf Season 1 on Blu-ray a couple of months ago, and breathtaking. The flying footage of Airwolf is absolutely breathtaking. And with that show, which is also a Donald Bellisario show, Bellisario produced Magnum as well as Airwolf. And then later on he produced Quantum Leap, if you're a fan of that show as well. But there is some graininess with the Blu-rays of Magnum P.I, but for the most part, the image is so much better, and you really get to see Hawaii in all of its splendor, much more than the DVDs offered. In terms of these old shows being released on Blu-ray, I'll do a proper video of my opinion of if it's worth getting the Blu-ray or if you're fine just sticking with the DVD. But at this point, seeing what I've seen so far, I would say the Airwolf Blu-ray is absolutely essential. Don't even think twice about it. It blows the DVD out of the water. The A-Team Blu-rays are beautiful, especially if you're a huge fan of the show. It's like seeing it again for the first time. And then with the Knight Rider Blu-ray, I was a big fan of Knight Rider when I was a kid as well, but after watching the Knight Rider Blu-rays, I don't feel as though it's that big a deal. I had been watching the DVDs. The picture quality and the color is a little better in the Blu-rays, but there's a lot of graininess, and you can't fix bad writing, bad episodes, bad acting. So with the Knight Rider Blu-ray, I'm just left thinking this really wasn't worth the upgrade. There just isn't enough quality there to polish. I guess I don't want to call Knight Rider a turd, but that's the expression that comes to mind, polishing a turd. But in terms of a show that's, in my opinion, pretty good, like Magnum P.I. Season 1 was, watching the HD version, the high definition, it just makes it so much better. And as always, you get to see nuances better. Tom Selleck is a fantastic actor, and seeing him in high definition just makes him even more charming. If you're not that passionate a fan, if you're not all that invested in it, sure, go for the mega supersized DVD ultimate set. But if you really love Magnum P.I, if it was one of your favorite shows back in the 80s, then I would say just hold on a little bit longer. That Blu-ray has got to be coming any day now. I could see them not releasing A-Team on Blu-ray in North America because although it was a big hit in the 80s, it just hasn't retained that audience over the years. Whereas Magnum P.I is such a popular show with so many people having positive memories of the show, and it went so long too. It went 8 seasons, whereas A-Team only went it limped to 5 seasons. I think it's an absolute lock that they're going to be releasing Magnum on Blu-ray in North America. Less successful shows like Knight Rider and Miami Vice have gotten the Blu-ray treatment. So I just hope that very, very soon they'll be announcing that Magnum P.I will be hitting Blu-ray in North America as well. So that's Magnum P.I Season 1. If you have a memory about the mustached one, scroll down and go to town. And to join the tribe, hit subscribe. Nerd Mistake. Higgins!